This episode is sponsored by JDAQA Software Testing, your scalable solution for manual, automated, security, and performance testing. Check us out at jdaqa.com. And with that, let's get on with the show.
This is The First Customer, hosted by Jay Agner.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the First Customer Podcast. My name is Jay Agner. Today, I'm lucky enough to be joined by Connor Snyder. He's the CEO and co-founder of Storyy. And I said he was, I think, a cool Chris Angel. Is that what I described you as the first time I saw you?
Yeah.
I think that was it. And I still stand by that. So, Connor, what's up, man? How are you, buddy?
Dude, I'm doing so well. How you doing, man?
I'm good. I mean, I feel, I guess underdressed, I guess. You're like in a real studio over there. I need to up my game. It's like in between two ferns, but you have just one of you. So I need that. So, dude, I know you're in Utah. We've talked about that a little bit, but just tell me a little bit, where did you grow up and did that have an impact on you being an entrepreneur?
Yeah, man, I did grow up here in Utah. And I was surrounded by entrepreneurship my whole life. So my dad is a drywall contractor. So I spent my summers, going to jobs and learning how to do sheetrock and spot nails and all that. And, my dad always said to me growing up, he's like, my goal is that you don't have to do this. That's what I want for you. And so you do that for a couple of summers, you're like, that's my goal too. I don't want to keep doing it. That's, him along with just a lot of neighbors we had were all entrepreneurs, and we had people in software and insurance and the whole gamut. And so for me, entrepreneurship kind of was, I was privileged in that way where entrepreneurship was just, I saw it play out with so many people, and it always seemed like a viable path because, other people did that. But what was interesting is like when I was going to college and stuff, the thought was never in my mind, like I'm going to be an entrepreneur. It was, I'm going to go learn some skill, which is marketing for me. But like that definitely had an impact on me because even as I was jumping into a career, I always had this entrepreneurial background noise of seeing someone could do this or someone should do this. And like that was a possibility.
I love that. Does your dad still run that business today? Is he still a contractor?
Well, he still has it, but it's kind of his side gig now because he opened an arcade.
You know what? When you put the work in, at some point you just get to do whatever you want, right? You're like, I've done it. I'll just do something fun now, and this is fantastic. So, do you guys talk about business now?
What's funny is we definitely do, but I don't feel like we go deep into each other's businesses. Like he'll talk about how's the business doing, and we'll talk like at a high level, and sometimes we'll go into like the strategy stuff. But I feel like I can go to him for advice, but I also feel like we operate such different businesses, kind of like apples and oranges for some things.
Yeah, no, that's cool. Well, do you find yourself ever recognizing that some of the things you're doing are like the same things you saw him doing?
I feel like all of us have this tape recorder growing up that just like chords, and then we hit this certain age and then it just plays back. Like in a conversation, be like, shit, I really sounded like my dad. So there's definitely things I find myself doing, and there's things I definitely consciously do differently, right? And so I think that there's some things in business and managing people that I do differently than my dad, but I also think there's hard conversations that I've learned a lot from my dad and how he handled those that I take lessons in. So I think we all learn from our parents for sure. And definitely, that's the closest level of entrepreneurship I had for so long.
I love that. I love that. So tell me about Storyy. Where did it come from? What's the idea? Where were you at when you came up with that? Were you working somewhere else? Like, where did the idea come from?
Yeah. So, really started when I was in high school because I was on Facebook all the time. And my mom would give me
that's where the chicks were, man.
That's where everyone was, man. And so like we were all on Facebook. All my friends were on Facebook. We had dumb Facebook groups and shit. And my mom would come into our office with our family computer where I had LimeWire and a bunch of torrent software.
Sure. Yep.
My mom would be like, get off here. You're not going to make any money on Facebook. Like this is a waste of your time. Like go do something useful. And so, lo and behold, in an effort to prove her wrong, I ended up working for the MBA program at the university I was going to. And they had a marketing problem. And I was like, hey, I've heard about this thing with Facebook ads. I'd love to try it out and learn it. And so they gave me a budget and I started running Facebook ads. And in the process of trying to get better at that, I go online and look at people and follow people that are doing Facebook ads and start learning from them and start kind of learning the strategy behind this stuff. And so I ended up dropping out of school because I got a job offer at a solar company to do Facebook for them. And so I started doing Facebook ads for this solar company, and then ended up going to this mortgage company. And the mortgage company is where I had this like click moment for me, where I got this job at this mortgage company and I thought that I was going to be running ads for the brokerage.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm guessing that you probably couldn't, maybe you know, because it's who you send the money to each month, like who your mortgage company is. But when
Sure.
you actually go to buy your house, you're talking to a loan officer and a person. And
Right.
so you, at the end of the day, the mortgage company doesn't care about their brand in terms of customer acquisition. They care about the loan officers because those are all 1099 sales guys.
Mm-hmm.
And so what ended up happening was I was like, well, I shouldn't waste time with the company brand. I need to go build personal brands for all of our loan officers, like
Mm.
300 at this brokerage. And so I put together a program, which was we'd go write scripts for these loan officers that let them talk about the things they were experts in. We take those scripts and post them on their social media. We turn some of that content into ads, and then we go share that content on all the platforms that mattered and let them build themselves as authority in their local area. And so we set up this very manual, tedious system to do this, but the loan officers loved it. They just recorded a video and didn't think about it. We edited it. We made it so it weren't embarrassing for them to post it. And then all of a sudden, people see them in their feeds as the expert. Like, oh man, they know a lot about loans. They know a lot about what I could qualify for. And all of a sudden, they start getting their sphere of influence coming back to them. They get repeat business. They get new business. They get all their past customers commenting, oh my gosh, I was so glad that I worked with you. And this content turns into assets that produce business for them. And so that's when it clicked for me. And I had a coworker there that we ended up starting a marketing agency where we just did that same strategy for people in a bunch of different industries. And we started getting enough traction that I got hired on at another company to be their product manager for a tech product they wanted to build that had some element of this to their software. And so, as someone that's always loved tech, like, reading tech blogs every day, for me, this was like a dream come true because I got to take all my marketing knowledge and learn about product development and technology and software. And that ultimately, that experience, helping them build that along with my marketing agency, then came full circle where I was like, we need to turn our process that's manual. And
Mm-hmm.
this from your background, any software, any technology is ultimately a process that you're automating, right? Like you got to build the user flow, you got to build a flow chart,
Yep.
and there's a process the software has got to support. And so our marketing was a process. It was process driven. There was a system to it. And so if we could build technology around that process, we had a software that solved a workflow problem for people.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what we ended up building was Storyy. Storyy was that combination of all the human talent and all of the simplicity that we could add to that marketing workflow and productize it. And that ultimately became Storyy.
Wow. So, well, who are you going after today? Like, who's your customer today compared to obviously, etching out your first kind of deals and doing it? Like, who are you going after today? And how's that changed?
Yeah, it's so like timely that we're having this conversation because we're just about to launch a new website that really doubles down on what we found our new ideal customer is. But at the very beginning, our first customer was a loan officer who didn't want to be a loan officer anymore. He was like, dude, I want you to blow up my personal brand. I want to do movies. I want to do podcasts. I want to do mortgage. And so, we're talking to him and he's telling me all this content that he wants. And then at the end, he's like, all right, how much to do it? And I literally in that conversation was like, dude, this is so much work. I have no idea how much I'm going to charge this guy. I need to just make up a number because it's got to be so big that I'll find a way to do it.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah. Yep.
But enough of a number that it's worth it. And honestly, the number I picked was high enough where I was like, I hope it just kind of scares him away.
Sure.
Like,
yeah. Yep.
So we charged him $5,000 a month for, I think we did 2 posts a day for him. And he said yes on that call. And so I got off that call and was like, all right, time to figure out exactly how we're going to pull this off. But we knocked it out of the park for him. And we started getting a lot more of these like individual personal brand clients. And over time, what's happened is we still get individual personal brand clients, but we get a lot more companies because a key thing that companies have realized is they have to have a media production arm to their marketing. It's like the amount of content that has to go out and the amount of content that needs to be video content is such an advantage when you're doing it that you've got to invest in that. And a lot of companies aren't in a position to go hire a full-time videographer, an editor, and social media manager. And so giving them that whole team at the cost that's less than a full-time employee is just a huge opportunity for those businesses who are also trying to build personal brands and personal credibility with people within their company. And so
Yeah.
that's we started finding a lot more traction and retention is those teams. And so we'll keep doing stuff for the personal brands, but it's those teams or the brands that have built teams around them that we found is more of our sweet spot now.
Mm. I'm going to tread very carefully because I don't want to talk about AI in the same context that everybody's talking about it.
Yeah.
I get kind of why it's good and not good in marketing. I think most people kind of get that at this point. What I am curious about, and it's because I'm kind of figuring out the same thing in our space, and we kind of talked about it a little bit before the show, is like, where do people fit into your process as it becomes easier to make software and do things with that software, obviously with AI? What for you guys as creatives and as editors and all these things, like where kind of specifically do the humans kind of fit in for you guys, and where do you envision them fitting in, kind of in the future? Because that's the interesting question to me, is like, how are people planning on keeping them around? Because if you plan on not having people around, I think you're going to be kind of, in a bad spot in like 6 to 12 months when you realize like there's lots of things that AI can't do. So where are you guys keeping people in the process? And don't say human in the loop or I'm ending this podcast immediately.
No, totally. So the way I think about this is like, at the end of the day, AI has to find some happy medium across all of its training data when it's doing any sort of subjective work, right? There's like factual information where it's like, this is true or not true. It's like a binary thing.
Mm-hmm.
But whenever we're having something that's like a matter of taste, and we're talking without much prompting or training or whatever, right? Like AI is going to have a point of view that is going to be palatable for the vast majority of people, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, the problem in any creative space, especially, and I'd say marketing is often a creative space, though not always, is you got to be able to stand out. And so, in a way that's similar to fashion, if you're doing 5 years ago or 10 years ago's marketing strategies, you're not going to stand out and get attention, which is ultimately what people are paying Story for.
Sure.
And so you have to have this balance of like, when you're going to use AI or human talent, the question is, how do we make sure that we're doing something that's outside of the norm, but not so far outside of the norm that it's not going to be effective? And then what are things that are truly repeatable tasks that have more binary evaluations of output? And so when I look at like AI, I first look at things like validation and QA, where it's like we can define some of the subjective things and AI can be applying against a defined scorecard of like,
Sure,
the things that can have binary decisions. But when it comes to like producing the output, you ultimately end up doing a lot of prompting that would also be ended up just being made like creative decisions from an editor. And
mm-hmm.
so I haven't seen the quality improvements or the time savings yet when AI is driving the actual output creative process. Now, we have a bunch of internal QA, move things around processes that AI is absolutely sped up.
Sure. Yeah. Yep. Yeah.
But I think at the end of the day, we're trying to get attention. We want to do attention as fast and cheap as possible. But there is an element of this that requires this to be different from everybody else. And where you bring AI into that process has to be very selective.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just an interesting, I mean, as a marketing guy, like it's just very interesting to think that like nobody's really, I mean, again, before the show we talked about, like nobody's really cracked the code on where they fit in the different humans fit in the different places yet.
Yeah.
Even with like product creation or like ideation, which I think I probably would bucket with creativity, right? Like there's some like line in the sand where like it goes from like complete new or complete human idea, and then if you like carry it too far, then you lead the witness with the AI and it starts to carry down one path. If you stop too soon, it gets vague and starts to look like everybody else. So there's some balance here, and I'm just curious, how you're
Yeah.
planning on kind of balancing it going forward, because people are gonna be looking for it, and it's something to sell against. I think it's a great selling point. Like, you guys have human beings that are awesome at something. Now, what are they awesome at for you guys? I guess is my question.
Yeah. So to me, I think it's when people come to us, part of the question you're always asking with content is like, do you want IKEA content or designer content, right? Do you want Old Navy content or do you want Coach content? Like for some people, the answer is I just need the most simple, easily repeatable content, and that's good enough for what my audience is looking for, right? So part of this is like we've got to understand on the marketing side who are the right people for us. Because
Mm-hmm.
if you're just looking for factory produced content, I think AI can handle a lot of the mechanics of that. But there, I've also seen people who've turned their channels into 100% AI driven cuts. And I'm not seeing stuff go viral. I'm not seeing them increase their reach. They might have taken a task off their shoulder where the content output's there, but if that's a leading indicator of how much less time am I spending on my content, the lagging indicator is, well, how many people are actually engaging with me? How much more is
Sure.
this driving new attention and new reach? And I've seen people, the only people that are doing that well have built very dialed in, very intentional processes, and all of them have people involved, but to what degree and where. And it's way
Mm-hmm.
more like ideation and validating ideation, and then like validating output and making sure the output looks good. And
Yep.
so, like, where we sit is we are doing that for every piece of content because, like, at the end of the day, your content's getting created for humans. So you better have a human look into this to make sure it makes sense to
Yep.
humans, right?
Yep. Yep. Yeah, and I totally subscribe to the, at least the short term future world is like product, AI being shepherded to develop whatever, and then validation. Like, those are the three kind of pillars that it's going to be going forward. It's going to be really smart people making really cool ideas, and then it's going to be people validating that those ideas work for human beings. And then the middle part, who knows, right? We're going to see what that kind of turns into. But I love that answer. Well, speaking of personal brand, I'm curious, like, how do you deal with it? You're like Mr. Personal Brand for everybody else. Are you only story guy, or do you have your own stuff? Do you like, who is Connor outside of, kind of your co-founder role?
Great question. No, I view story as one thing I'm going to do in my life. Story isn't me, and I am not story. Like story,
Yeah.
our whole team, right? So like when you ask me that question, there's two thoughts in my head. One is, I like, what do I do for personal brand? Well, I'm like mechanically, I dog food. Like your own dog food, right? So it's like I'm going in and using our stuff and hitting friction points and being like, oh, this should be better for people, right? Like you want to always be understanding what experience your users are having. But then like on a more like broader level, like who's Connor outside of story? For me, I'm just a freaking nerd, man. Like I love anything tech related. Like the amount of gadgets that I've got at my house is insane just because for me it's so fun to understand what's at the cutting edge. Like I'm that early adopter, try it, understand it. Like to me it's symbolic of human progress, and it's the thing that
Mm,
got me so enthralled with social media up front was this crazy idea that I could be in my house having a conversation with someone on the other side of the world who grew up in a completely different bubble and environment than I did. And like, it's kind of naive looking at it now, but I still really believe in that promise of the internet and what content can do is it can connect people that would never have been connected otherwise. And there's so much power in that.
so
And so
cool.
I love anything technology related for that reason.
Reminds me of like when my dad was doing like ham radio stuff when I was a kid,
Mm.
and like you could like kind of visualize that, like, we're here and it's going to bounce off the atmosphere and hit like somewhere in Europe, and you're gonna be talking to some. So it's the same kind of, but also I grew up, in the 90s. So like age of discovery of the internet, all, it was something I grew up with. So I appreciate that very much. So I am curious, what are you trying to do with the business?
Mm.
Do you want
Yeah.
to sell it one day? Is it something you hold close to the vest that you only talk to internal team members about? Does everybody know? Like, what's your goal for the business?
Yeah, I definitely want to sell it. I'm not trying to do that now. I feel like I've got more to do in it, and there's more that I'm finding personally fulfilling and fun in it right now. But definitely want to sell it one day. I think that like when you're building a business, you should always be building to sell it, even if you have no plans on selling it, because it forces you to like build in certain ways and ask certain questions, right? And so, like to me, it's like build to sell. I think I'll sell it one day. Certainly, like I'm gonna die one day. Like I'm gonna want to retire. So like certainly on that time horizon, I'm gonna want to sell it. But
Sure.
well, that like I definitely want to sell it at some point. And then yeah, I think there's lots of other things that fascinate me that I want to be able to go and dabble in. That I'm hopeful that Story, whether it's sold or just by growing, opens up doors to try other things. But right now, Story is definitely the focus, and building it is the focus.
Love it. All right, man. Non-story related, non-business related. If you could do anything on earth and you knew you wouldn't fail, what would it be?
Shit. Okay. I mean, here's the problem. You limited me to on Earth, and like
No,
one
no,
of
no, 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 no. I say on Earth. I take that back. I have lots of space friends. I'm a space nerd. I'm an astrophotographer. So I take that back. I guess should I say anything in the universe? Then people get like too existential. Sure, it's low Earth orbit between here and the moon. I don't know. Mars. What do you
this
want,
is like
dude?
my big, hairy, audacious personal goal is I want to build Story to a point where I can afford a ticket on a rocket to go to the moon. Like I think that's going to happen in our lifetime. We're not there yet, but I think it's going to happen in our lifetime. And I'm always like, I want to be able to do that before I die. Leave Earth and like go look back at this pale blue dot. I just feel like would be the coolest thing ever. So that's
I
like my
love that.
big, hairy, audacious goal. If I could be like an astronaut tomorrow, that would be it. But
Well, you can in this scenario. You can't fail. That's great. I actually love the thought of like maybe if you could just like see it as you died. And it was the last thing. And you just got shot off into space. That kind of feels like just like is you even playing like Freebird or something as you fly into space. But
that's a
no, dude,
great.
you're awesome. I love your energy. I love the product. It's just a cool story, dude. And I didn't mean that, but like in general, like yeah, there you have. There's no rim shot in post. If people want to talk to you about something they heard today, specifically, how do they reach out to you directly?
Yeah. So if you want to talk to me, you can email me. It's Connor at story two Y's STORYY.com. Yeah, shoot me an email. Always happy to chat and answer questions and tell you more about what we do.
And where did the name of the company come from? I have to know before we go. And why is the second Y silent? I'm not going to let you take that joke. I'm going to steal it from you. I'm going to use it against you. So tell me, where did the name come from?
Look, for me, content is just intertwined with story, right? It doesn't matter if you're doing it for your personal brand or your business. There's a story that's got to be told, and sometimes you tell it in 30 seconds, sometimes you tell it in 15 minutes. But story is ultimately what we're about: is helping people share their authentic message in a way that gets attention. And so, like, story is at the heart of that, and that's why the name of this is Story. And story with two Y's. Part of it is we want it to feel like you've got two of you, so that you've got a whole extra muscle of creative talent that's helping share that story. But that's kind of what we decided to have the explanation be after, because the reality is story.com is a lot more expensive
Yeah,
than
I was gonna say. I mean, look, you can tell that story all you want, buddy, but I think we know. I think we know. I think we know why the domain ended up with two Y's. Even if the company wasn't the same name, I'm gonna guess that story.com was worth a pretty penny. But Connor, you're awesome. Story, check it out in the app store near you. Is that where we get it?
Yep, story.com or on the app store, either way. Yeah, and if you ever want a free video edit, yep, just sign up and we're happy to show you what we can do for free.
Love it. Check out the new website. And I'll catch you again soon, Connor. It was good talking to you, buddy. Take care. See you, man.
Take care. Later.